Too Deep walked along the drive to the James family mansion with her heart heavy and her soul trembling. Each footstep felt like a struggle, as though the path were lined with thorns rather than smooth paving. One hand cradled her belly, where a tiny life fluttered with every beat, a small, hopeful drum that spurred her on. She had rehearsed her words 1,000 times, what she would say, how she would plead, how she would stand tall and resolute. In her mind, she promised herself that this time would be different. This time, Father James would listen. He would no longer see her merely as an intruder, he would see her as the woman his son loved, the mother of his future grandchild. But when the heavy doors of the mansion opened, and she stepped into the cold marble foyer, her fragile resolve began to fracture. Father James stood at the far end of the hall, his posture rigid, his shoulders squared as if he were a sentinel guarding some ancient fortress. His face was a mask of displeasure, brows drawn tight, lips pressed into a thin line. There was no welcome in his eyes, no warmth in his greeting. He didn't offer her a seat. He didn't gesture for tea. There was not even a polite greeting, he simply glared. "Why did you come back here?" he asked, his voice cutting through the silence like a razor. Too Deep's throat tightened, but she steadied herself. She opened her mouth, swallowed hard, and said, "I came to talk, to explain." "I don't want any more misunderstandings, between James and me, between you and me." Her words hung in the air, trembling, but Father James cut her off swiftly, sharply. "There is no James in you," he said as though she were deluding herself. "There never will be." She felt a pang in her chest, as though someone had twisted a dagger. Yet still, she forced herself to continue. "Sir, I am carrying his child. I only want peace." Silence stretched, heavy and unsettling. Then he laughed, a sound devoid of warmth, bristling with disdain. "Peace?" he repeated, each syllable sharp. "A child like you thinks she can bring peace? You bring nothing but shame. You have nothing, no education, no background, no value." "My son has already ruined enough of his future. I will not let you destroy what remains." Too Deep's heart felt like a fragile bird trapped in a storm. Each of his sentences landed like a blow. "I am not trying to destroy anything," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I just want a chance." "A chance?" he thundered. "There is no chance. Leave, and do not come back, not now, not ever." Too Deep's knees weakened, but she found the strength to turn. Her vision blurred. The grand hall, with its marble pillars and high windows, shimmered as though underwater, as though she were dreaming and could awaken at any moment. Her steps, however, were real, uneven, trembling, as she fled toward the exit. Outside, the garden glittered in morning light, but in her eyes, everything was gray. She stopped only once she reached the gate. Then the tears came, first quiet, then uncontrollable. She had been rejected again, and this time, in a way that threatened to crush her entirely. Back at her modest small house, James sensed something was very wrong before he even stepped inside. The front door was slightly ajar. Curtains fluttered in the afternoon breeze, and the familiar warmth of the home felt hollow, strangely empty. The kind of emptiness left by a sudden, violent absence. "Too deep?" he called softly. He crossed the threshold, heart heavy. Inside, the room told the story before she did. Her favorite scarf lay abandoned on a chair. A cup of tea, still warm, sat untouched on the table, its steam forgotten. Across the room, her phone lay face down, a silent testament to her distress, as though she had dropped it in the midst of sorrow. James picked up the phone, his fingers trembling slightly. He saw missed calls from himself, unread messages, and one unsent voice recording. He pressed play. Her voice came through, quivering. "James, I went to see your father." "I thought maybe he would listen this time, but I was wrong. Maybe I was foolish to hope. I don't know what to do anymore. I just need some time to think." Her voice cracked, muffled sobs spilled out. "Don't worry. I will be fine. I just need to breathe." The recording ended with a sudden breath. No resolution, no bravado, only heartbreak. James stood frozen, the world tilting around him. His father had promised him something, that he would wait, give James room to explain, even reluctantly try to understand. But now, the promise lay broken. And too deep was gone. Frustration, anger, fear, they roiled within him like a storm. He ran a hand through his hair, heart pounding. Then he grabbed his keys. Without hesitation, he rushed out. He knew where she would be. Whenever life became too overwhelming, whenever her heart felt too heavy, she always found her way to the small bridge overlooking the rice fields. That quiet place had become her sanctuary, her refuge. A place where she once confided in him. "When the world hurts me, this view reminds me that life can still be gentle." James drove fast, his thoughts racing faster than the car. What if she blamed herself? What if she was crying alone? What if she was thinking of leaving him altogether? No, he refused to let her face this alone. When he arrived, the sky was turning gold. The sun lazily dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the fields. There, perched at the edge of the bridge, was Diep, small, fragile, curled inward, hugging her knees. The wind carried the sound of her quiet sobs across the water. James slowed the car. He sat for a moment, watching her, trying to steady himself. Deep in his chest, he felt his heart crack. Finally, carefully, he stepped out of the car. Each footstep in the gravel whispered beneath him, as though the earth itself feared to disturb her. He approached slowly, mind thrumming with worry. To Diep, he called, his voice soft against the wind. She stiffened, a subtle movement, but enough. He knew she heard him. He paused. The air held its breath. Then she said, in a fragile voice, "I told you I needed time." James swallowed, his throat dry. "I know," he whispered. "But I came anyway." Diep wiped her cheeks hastily, as if embarrassed to be seen in tears. She didn't turn at first. Her voice trembled. "You shouldn't have. I don't want to make things harder for you." He took another step until he stood just behind her. "You're not making anything harder," he said firmly. "Not for me." Something in his words made her turn. She looked at him, swollen eyes, trembling lashes, and a mixture of heartbreak and fatigue painted on her face. "Why does he hate me so much?" she asked, her voice cracking. "What have I done wrong, James? Tell me what I did." He knelt beside her, bringing himself to her level. He held her gaze. "You did nothing wrong," he said, his voice steady. "Nothing. It's not your fault, not even a little." She looked away, struggling for composure. "Then why?" she demanded softly. James took a breath, as if gathering courage. "Because he's afraid," he answered. "Afraid of losing me, afraid of the mistakes he's made, afraid of facing the truth about himself." "And instead of confronting them, he places the burden on you." Diep stared at him, searching his face for reassurance, hope, something, anything. He said being with me was a mistake. That I would ruin your life." James closed his eyes momentarily, hearing his father's voice in his mind, cold, controlling, sharp. Then he opened them again, and his tone turned resolute. "He doesn't get to decide who I love," he said. "He doesn't get to dictate my life. And he certainly doesn't get to hurt you." Her lips trembled, her eyes wide. He reached out, slowly, giving her space to pull away. But she didn't. Instead, she stayed. His thumb brushed a tear from her cheek. "Diep," he said gently, "you are the woman I chose." The woman I want. And I will fight for you, for us, no matter what he says. She gasped a little, her breath catching. The wind seemed to soften, as though leaning in to listen. What if he never accepts me? She whispered, voice small and raw. James's hand found hers, holding it, steadying it. Then I will love you enough for both of us, he promised, his voice full of conviction. I will stand between you and every storm, even if the storm is my own family. She leaned in toward him, just slightly, as though trusting him to take her weight. In that golden hour, with the sky dimming into violet and the fields shimmering in twilight, they held each other. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and he wrapped her in his arms, as though his strength could shield her from every hurt. They drove home in silence, not because there was nothing to say, but because neither dared to break what little peace they had rebuilt. When they reached Too Deep's small wooden gate, she hesitated. Her fingers rested on the door handle, unmoving. James, she whispered, softly. He turned toward her, concern in his eyes. If things continue like this, you'll lose your father, she said, her voice quivering. He looked at her. The street lamp cast a soft glow, reflected in his eyes. He exhaled slowly. Deep, I told you already, but this is different, she said, placing a hand over her heart, because I exist in your life. James stepped closer, closing that final distance. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and said gently, that's exactly why this is not your fault. The problem isn't you, it's him. Diep lowered her head. I can bear the pain he gives me, she confessed, barely audible. I can bear humiliation, rejection, anything, except watching you lose your family because of me. He moved forward and cradled her face with both his hands. Listen carefully, he said. Family is not built on blood alone. Family is made from love, loyalty, and respect. He paused. If my father cannot respect the woman I love, then he is choosing distance, not me. Her breath flickered, her voice barely more than a tremor. James. I'm scared. He smiled sadly, lifting her chin so she looked into his eyes. I know, he replied. I'm scared too, but loving you has always been worth the fear. A tear slid down her cheek, but this time it wasn't just sorrow, it was relief, recognition, and being seen for who she really was. Before she could speak, footsteps broke the quiet. They turned, and there, under the street lamp, stood Father James. Shadowed, conflicted, his face heavy with emotion. Too Deep's body tensed. Her fingers tightened on her dress as she tried to find words. But none came. James stepped forward in front of her, placing himself between her and his father. "Don't talk to her like that," he said, calm but resolute. His father's eyes widened, surprised and perhaps even a little fearful. James's voice was steady, steel strong. "Yes, I dare defy you. For her. For the woman I love." Silence stretched, suffocating and sharp, as though time itself were holding its breath. Finally, Father James spoke, his voice quieter, hoarse, distant. "Very well," he said slowly. "If this is the path you choose, then follow it." He turned, his heavy steps echoing in the night, and walked away. Two Deep's knees buckled. James caught her, lifted her, held her firm, as though she might shatter without his embrace. She buried her face in his chest, her voice breaking softly. "James. Thank you. Thank you for fighting for me." He held her tighter, his heart aching with a mixture of love and fear, protection and vulnerability. Under the silent night sky, the stars hidden behind clouds, the city lights flickering distantly, they stood together. In that moment, they understood, this was more than love. It was a vow. Not a vow built on promises alone, but on courage and raw truth. In the hush of that night, they both learned something profound. Two Deep's journey was more than a story of love, it was a journey toward self-acceptance. She discovered that being rejected, even by someone as powerful as Father James, did not diminish her worth. The cruelty she endured did not define her, instead, it revealed her strength. James too discovered a deeper truth, that real love demands sacrifice, but more than that, it demands fidelity to one's own heart. Protecting the woman he loved meant standing not behind walls but shoulder to shoulder, even if it meant standing against his own father. The greatest lesson of all? When love is tested not by ease, but by hardship, when it withholds no sacrifice, no confrontation, it becomes unbreakable. True love is not fragile. It only seems so when we stop fighting for it, and in that quiet moment on the bridge, with their arms around each other, they knew that the most powerful kind of courage is the courage to keep loving, even when everything seems to stand against you.